Zor and Amardat group, who has websites always, they take photographs of all the things going on in Iran for Jashans, for Gambars, for Sedreh Pushi, for weddings, and then you have an article for it, many times in Persian, but with a very good photographs, and I have taken advantage of these photographs from these two files. I have given you how to find this one if you are interested, and then look at it. They are very wonderful. So, according to the Dasturji, the requirements for ceremony is youth initiate should know the Avestai, Kusti and Saroshvaz prayers by heart. This is the minimum he has to know. Also, they should know the purpose and reason for the Sedreh and Kusti and how to tie the Kusti around the waist while reciting Yathavarya Shemvo prayers. You know, there is actually a very interesting way they determine whether the child is ready for the Sedreh Pushi. The youth should know and should know the following prayers and their meanings from Khorde Avesta book, such that at least she can recite them from the book, and the Mabed standard is set, and one of the Mabed of their organization is given the responsibility for the child, and he actually tests the child to see that he or she can recite it from the book, the following prayers as you see: Paimane Din, which is our Dinno Kalmo, Berasat, Tandurasti, 101 names, Apna Sado Yak Name Khuda, Wispe Setayash, a short prayer meant to dedicate all the whisper, means all, currently prayed to Avramazda, Meshas, Pan, Yazatas, etc., which is very similar to a short Berasat period, and then Setayashe Yekta Khuda, Doanam Setayasne according to the Parsis. After the ceremony, one may request in writing for a certificate from the Kankashe Mabedan of Tehran or Yezd, which is the organization of the Mabeds up there, and they can be proudly displaying this certificate in their home. Before the ceremony, the one must take a bath and wear brand new white clothes, and here is the difference. The children after the first bath actually puts on the Sudreh. So when they come to the Sedreh Pushi ceremony, they already have the Sudreh on their body, and they don't need the shawl to cover it up as we do in Parsis. He mentions that any haircuts must be given before, no visits to hair and beauty salon after this bath. The youth must be of sound mind and body, be fully prepared and willing to accept the religion and to embrace it full-heartedly. Of course, it is expected that the parents, teachers and Mabed would assist the initiate in a diligent manner. I am on slide number 66. At the ceremony, at least the following items will be placed on the white tablecloth. Plate containing some thyme, which is called avishan, I think, mixed with rice, uncooked, over which item 2, which is the koshti, brand new, never opened, lit oil lamp or glass candelabra, tray of dried fruits and nuts called lor, mixed or spread over with white sweets called nohal, potted flower or flower bouquet surrounded by item number 6, which is the branches of cypress sarva tree, portrait of Zarathustra and a prayer book, a mirror and rose water sprinkler used to welcome guests after the ceremony. Little different than Parsi way. The Mabed and initiate both wash their hands and face while reciting a Shemvo. Mabed and initiate sit around the table. See, they just sit around the table, but sometimes they sit on the ground just like we do here on the Setranji or carpet. The Mabed is facing the sun. Now the Mabed recites quietly, almost humming, the Hormazyas or Atasniash prayer for the well-being of the initiate. At the same time, the youth begins to hum all the prayers which have been learned, so he doesn't sit there watching the Mabed pray. The decision whether to pray Hormazyas or Atashnias depends on the Mabed. Usually, Atasnias has to be performed on Ardibes and Adar Maino, Ordibes or Azar, And also on each month on Azar, Sarosh and Behram and Ardibes, because those are the Hamkaras, the helpers of Ardibesias, which represents fire. And then recites Hormuz on day of Hormuz, Depadar, Depmer and Depdin. On the other days, the Mabed decides himself what is typically prefers Hormuz because if he recites Atashnyas, you require fire to be present, which is not always feasible. And after this one, prior to reciting the Berasat prayer, which is bestowed in honor of initiate good health, Mabed will take the Kusti, hand it to him by the initiate, unfolds it and drapes it over the shoulders of the initiate with the middle part on the left hand side as we do the Kusti. After the Berasat prayer, the Mabed stands and motions the child to stand directly in front of him with his back towards him, and both are facing now the sun. At this time the child needs to pull up his or her shirt so that the Kusti can be wound around the Sudreh that he or she has already put on, and the Kusti prayer begins. The Kusti prayer is exactly the same as I described before, except the part of the name of the place when something is done is different. Maybe we do Manashni, Gavasni, Kunashni and hold the Kusti together. They may do it at a different one. And the name of the Kusti prayer is called Avestai Kusti. Okay. This I am going to skip now. I am on 69. So this is very exactly the same thing with some of the prayers different to do certain things as it is mentioned here. The Kusti is tied just like we do from front 2 knots and back 2 knots. A little side story on this one. When Dasturji sent this, the knots that he referred to are something else and not the reef or a square knot as we call it. And so both Farzad and I did research and showed him that it is a reef knot and square knot and not the knot, oh, sailor's knot he mentioned. And Dasturji was very thankful that we pointed out the right knot to him, and he promised to use that instead from now on. A good exchange just for this particular thing. After the whole thing is over, all the 4 knots are tied, then they bring the child's hand coupled together, and then they do these very ceremonial things. They take the 2 hands and go over their face all the way down and then kiss the hands. This is a typical Iranian way of doing this. And then they pray this Hamazur Bim, a short prayer, which is very similar to the first Afrin of Ardab Pravas, Hamazur, Hamar Shobet, Hamazur Bad, Hamazur Hamaneki Bad, and so on. And then they also have this prayer called Piruzbad. Then the child faces the Mabed and places his front folded hands into the Mabed's hands, like, you know, almost like a Hamazur. And then word by word they pronounce Peyman Din and Dadare Yek. At last the child then sits down on the seat and listens to Mabed as he recites Tandurusti prayer, shower him with the mixture of avishan and rice, just like we do in our Tandurusti. I kind of put a sequence of all these prayers in Sedreh Pushi on this one slide, number 72. And here are some of the photographs of the ceremony. On the upper left hand corner, you see all the 14 initiates are sitting on the bottom of the floor, whereas all the Mabeds are standing up praying Hormuz. Look at the procession that comes